Thanks for dropping in. In this video, I buy some random letters and numbers off of eBay, I fail to open a box on a wobbly table, I bend some motherboard pins with a whopping great big screwdriver, and I build a desktop PC. I've had this case knocking around the house for ages. It's got a DVD drive in it and a power supply, but no other components. I could take it down the recycling, or sell it as it is on eBay, but the post and packing probably makes that not worthwhile. I've got RAM and the CPUs knocking around as well, so I started thinking, could I get the motherboard I needed off of eBay to make a computer that I could give away for free on FreeCycle, as well as maybe turn a profit? There are sites that allow you to snipe on eBay or that show you listings that are about to finish without any bids. But what I tend to do is look for badly described listings added by newish users with relatively low feedback. This has got quite a high danger rate as far as what you might actually receive, but you can also get some bargains this way. The first one that caught my eye was this one. It was just labelled motherboard. Even though it's got a relatively generic title, the photo does show that there's a heatsink and fan attached. And where there's a heatsink and fan, a CPU often follows underneath. There's also 16GB of DDR3 RAM as 2x8GB sticks. And with a starting bid of just £10 UK and £2.94 post and packing, this definitely piqued my interest. The motherboard and fan, as well as the RAM, are Zum branded. I've had Zum branded RAM before, but I've never seen any other components with this branding, which would suggest this is from some sort of pre-built system, or they were just Zoom fanboys. And a quick look on Amazon shows that the lowest specification pre-built by Zum with a 1155 motherboard uses an i7-3770 CPU. Now this is worth a few quid in itself. This also makes sense because the pre-built comes with a NVMe SSD, and a quick look at the photo shows that the motherboard has a M.2 slot. So all in, I put in the £10 asking bid and won. My next eBay item of interest was this Z77A-G43 MSI. For parts or not working. This is a motherboard, again socket 1155. Putting a title like this is kind of like putting a title of WAN 28250GB, where only regular readers of Washing Machine Weekly would know this was in fact a washing machine. And with an initial bid of just £5 UK sterling, I'm interested. A look at the description states that it comes with an i5-3570K, an overclockable chip worth more than £5 in itself. A look at the picky does show why this may be not working though, as the pins in the CPU socket are mush. I put in the initial £5 sterling bid and won. Straight after winning, the seller messaged me saying that they also have 2x4GB, so 8GB total RAM that they were just going to throw in as well. All for £5 delivered? Bargain. So what did I receive? The first one I'm looking at here is the Zum motherboard. After struggling for a disproportionate amount of time trying to figure out how a box works, and barely getting to the point in evolution where I'm able to use tools, I finally get into it, with about as much finesse as a monkey smashing a coconut on a rock. At first glance, I'm noting a decided lack of cooler and CPU. Also, the CPU mounting brackets have been removed. I'm not sure why they've done that. They've been left rattling around the box during shipping. Not good. There's various paperwork underneath, including for an AMD CPU. Not sure why that's in there. There is the unwritten rule on eBay, where if something's included in the photo, you generally take it that that's going to be included in the delivery. That is not definite, of course. But at the end of the day, the description was for a motherboard, and that's what I got. Bit disappointing that we didn't get the CPU or the cooler that were in the photo though. At least the 16GB of RAM is included. So all in for £12.94 delivered? Not bad. A closer look at the socket does show a couple of bent pins. Whether this is from the rattling around mounting brackets or not, I can't tell. The next box contains the MSI board. After demonstrating my IQ by opening this box relatively faster, I'm greeted with my freebie RAM. Team Group Extreme Dark DDR3 1600. Nice. The motherboard appears to be wrapped in chainmail from a knight who was into biodegradability long before his time. And of course the standard odd loose metal component, which is always good for a game of spot the short. The motherboard did come in a static bag though, which is nice to see. As is the included backplate, as often these are not included as people forget to take them out of the back of their cases. Modern higher end motherboards have the backplate attached however, so this is less of a problem going forward. A nice move here is including the CPU already mounted in the socket. This acts as a socket protector, eliminating the chance of further damage to the pins. However, from the initial pictures of the socket, I think we're a bit late to the party, but we do have the included i5 3700K, worth about £20 UK at the time of filming, which looks to be in good condition. The socket, however, as suspected, has a bent pin issue. So first things first, reattaching the mounting bracket to the Zum motherboard. Sending it with this modification has the potential to make it the broken and loose sucky edition, or balls for short. But I think I got away with it. We'll find out in a bit. Moving on to the MSI board, I've got a fair bit of pin straightening to do. With older socket 775 boards, this wasn't too bad. However, with 115X boards, i.e. 1156, 1155, 1150, etc., it's a bit more difficult. I use my camera to zoom in and solely look at that. I've tried using pieces of wire as a straightening tool, but generally wire is too weak and bends before the necessary force to straighten the pins is applied. I use a precision screwdriver. While being a bit cumbersome, it's generally able to straighten individual pins without causing too much additional damage to those surrounding it. I whacked in the i5 3570K that came with the MSI board, tempting fate and testing two unknown components at the same time. Never a good plan for troubleshooting, but hey, let's live dangerously. I did use some known good working RAM though. Powered on, and yes, we have boot to BIOS, the screen all nerds love to see. As a side, I tested the other RAM slot off camera, and that does not work, so I only have a single channel of RAM currently working. There is a high chance this could be solved with a bit more pin bending though. Moving on to the MSI board, I have much less faith in my pin bending skills here, so I go for my test bench option. Test bench being code for a piece of chipboard with standoff screwed in, and a badly drilled hole for graphics cards backplates to stick into. I plopped in our now known working i5, added some known working RAM, and nothing. Nada. Jack. I tried reseating the CPU and RAM, and even having another prod at the CPU pins, but failed to get this one to boot. So with the Zum motherboard already mounted in the case, and a quick switcheroo with the CPU to an i3-2120 that I had lying around, this dual-core, quad-thread due to hyper-threading CPU is not going to play modern games, but still does fine with older games and day-to-day tasks. And if the new owner puts a lower-end graphics card in, maybe something that doesn't need supplemental power, like a GT 1030, the DDR5 rather than DDR4 version of course, it would be an okay little setup. The onboard graphics will still be fine in the meantime however for day-to-day stuff, using the MS generic video driver as the IGP from 2nd gen Intel processors are not officially supported on Windows 10. But of course you could also use Linux. So in summary, my total cost was £12.94 for the Zum motherboard and 16GB of RAM, and £5 for the MSI board, i5 3570K CPU and 8GB of RAM, making a total of £17.94. I subsequently sold the i5 3570K for £19.99 and the 16GB of RAM for £15 before fees and postage, making a total of £34.99, therefore making a profit of £17.05, again before fees and postage for the sold items. I gave the PC away on FreeCycle, having had numerous requests, as well as the MSI motherboard also on FreeCycle to a guy I've given other non-working items to, as he is a technician and has the ability in the kit to attempt repair. I kept the 8GB of extreme dark RAM for myself, for future use. So I'd call that a success. Kit was kept from the landfill or recycling. Someone received a free PC and possible motherboard, and I made a few quid and got some RAM out of it. Maybe I'll look into doing this again, but for a whole PC, or even PCs, as these components generally come as bundles on eBay. Drop me a note in the comments if you'd like to see that, or let me know if you go about reusing PC parts from eBay or other sites. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed it, or a thumbs down if not, and subscribe if you'd like to know the instant a new video drops, as this would really help me out. Thanks all, and see you again soon.